Hi folks, welcome to the town of Wendover in Buckinghamshire. Wendover has a canal which you can see behind me, and I'm interested in this canal because different parts of it are in different states of repair. There are some with plenty of water and you can sail along quite happily in your canal boat. Then there are other parts which are very overgrown and can really be only used by ducks and swans and things. And then there are other parts with no water at all. And those parts are being restored by the local canal society, which is a huge project. It's taking them years, in fact decades, to do. So that's what we're going to do. So along the way, I'm sure there'll be plenty of canal stuff to see, and plenty of history, plenty of scenery, and plenty of food. But I'm not quite ready to start yet. I'm going to go and have a coffee in the town first, and I'll take the opportunity to show you a bit of the town. Nice smell of coffee from Costa, but I think I'd like to go somewhere more independent. This is the main street here. I'm sure there'll be somewhere to get coffee. Wendover is famous for walking, as you can see. Those fashionable ladies who just went past me with their Nordic sticks, whatever those things are called, they're probably going to walk up in the Chilterns, which is the range of hills near here. Wendover likes to call itself the gateway to the Chilterns. That yellow sign on the right looks fairly promising, so I think I'll go there for coffee. But before I do, I'll just show you the main marketplace in the town. They've got a little bookshop, they've got their own butcher's shop, and they've got Rumsey's Chocolaterie, where they make their own chocolates. And they do serve a nice coffee there, but I've been there before, so I'll go somewhere else today. There is actually a market here which still takes place one day a week. I can't remember what day. Second World War and First World War. And away in the distance there you can see the Chiltern Hills, and you can see them up there as well. Right, time for coffee. Sometimes the backs of the shops are more interesting than the fronts because they haven't been tidied up as much. Every single building here has been extended and extended lots of times. Some of them are taking the trouble to hide their bins, and some of them aren't. Very often what happened with these marketplaces was the marketplace would be very wide originally, but it used to get built on in the centre. That's probably what's happened here. Let's try this place. This is where they roast their own coffee, apparently.
Cinnamon buns and fried coffee. Got blueberry muffins.
But it's not for me.
Hiya. How many shots are there in the Americanos? Sorry? How many shots of coffee do you put in? Okay, can I have an Americano then, please, with milk?
That's all week.
Thank you.
Over there.
Well, that was a very nice coffee and a very nice cafe to drink it in, full of posh people. As they were sitting there, people were coming in with nice suntans, talking about all the exotic places that they've been to for their Christmas holidays. So, back to business. We are now about half a mile south of Wendover, and the reason that I'm here is because I want to try to find out where the water for the canal comes from. It comes from various streams in the Chiltern Hills, and on Google Maps, those streams appear to start right here. So let's turn the camera around. This might be the best way to get through. I'm always crashing through the undergrowth. So that down there appears to be where the streams start, although the water must come from somewhere else. But anyway, it's quite muddy at the moment. There hasn't been that much rain recently, but that's where the water starts according to Google Maps. Then it flows in a little stream down towards Wendover, and then into the canal, and that's where the canal gets its water from. So let's follow this stream to Wendover, and then we'll start the canal walk. Somebody's very considerately left some paella for me, but no thank you. I think this is the main parish church in Wendover. You see how the ground level is always higher in the graveyard than on the road, because of all of the burials that have taken place over the years. There aren't many graves in this though, they must have been removed. This graveyard's going to look nice in a few weeks when all those irises or crocuses or whatever they are come out. Named for obvious reasons. And somebody's made a beautiful pond here. And I assume the water for that pond comes from the same stream that feeds the canal. So here we have our first sight of the stream that feeds the canal. Nice little babbling brook. And it's beautifully clear water. Some people have houses beside the stream which they can access via little bridges like that. The stream goes that way and I have to go this way, but we'll meet up with it again very shortly. And over here, it's the start of the snowdrop season. In a month or so, this is all going to look gorgeous when all of the snowdrops are out. It's still a bit early for them. There's some abandoned building here, and normally I can't resist an abandoned building, but I just haven't got time today. We're back in the centre of Wendover now, so let's go to where the stream becomes the canal. This is a very attractive street with all of these Georgian houses. The old mews. That means that they used to keep horses and carriages there, behind there perhaps. The day is starting to warm up nicely now. You see, I've got a rucksack on my back, but there's actually nothing in it. The reason I brought it is because I'm expecting to have to strip layers off as we go through the day. I've taken my gloves off already, so they're going to go in there. Finally, our first sign that there's a canal somewhere in the vicinity, a wharf being a place where you load and unload boats. So let's follow that road, Wharf Road. Welcome to the Wendover Arm. That's the actual name of this canal, although, as it says here, everybody calls it the Wendover Canal. And this is basically where the stream becomes the canal. This is where I filmed the introduction. So you can see the stream coming under that bridge over there where the road goes over it. And this you can basically think of as the start of the canal. And this part of the canal is absolutely idyllic. Full of ducks and swans. I think one of those swans was in the background when I did the introduction. But I've been doing my reading up, and I know that this canal was not intended originally to be navigable for boats. The reason why it was built was to just bring water from the Chilterns to the main canal. But when they were building it, they thought, well, if we're going to make a canal, we might as well make it big enough for boats as well. So the boats were kind of an afterthought. The water is not very deep now, only 20 or 30 centimeters, but it must have been deeper back in the day in order for the barges to come along here. So that over there where you can see the brick wall, I assume that was the wharf where the barges were loaded and unloaded. No barges here anymore, but they will be one day if the Wendover Canal Trust has its way. Now it's only being used by ducks and swans. We really must get going. I feel like I've been doing this walk for a long, long time and I've only just started the canal part. Here the canal widens out a bit, and I assume that was for the barges to turn around because they're quite long. Somebody's knackered old shed. There must have been some erosion of the banks because they're shoring them up here with sandbags. It feels nice to actually be doing the walk properly now. I can start marching along. It's actually gorgeous here. I think the Wendover Canal Trust, who are restoring the canal to make it navigable for boats, they're on the right lines, because this is very nice to walk along, and imagine if the canal boats could come along here too. The water's a bit deeper here, probably 2 or 3 feet deep. You probably could get along here with a narrowboat. I'm wondering if that's an egret of some sort over there. I'll try and find out later on. Looks like there is a danger of erosion along here. It really is very bucolic walking along here, but that's going to change, you'll see. There's definitely some football being played over there. You can tell by the shouts of excitement. Everybody's exhorting somebody called Henry to try and score a goal. So now we're out of Wendover into the countryside. I don't know if you can tell, but this water here is actually flowing. See that piece of vegetation there moving downstream? The water doesn't normally flow in canals. You don't want it to, because all water that moves is lost water. So it should really only move when you open a lock. But there are no locks on this stretch of canal. Definitely time to remove some layers. Very, very narrow bridge here. And this used to be a railway line. that served the Air Force base. And the railway used to come along there and go over a bigger bridge than that, obviously, and all the way over there to the Air Force base. We continue. Oh, there's a picture of it. Can you imagine the amount of work required to dig out a canal? It all had to be done by hand. Again, the canal opens out for some reason there. And then on this side, it looks like a BMX track. Sorry, ducks, I've got nothing for you. I don't even have any food for myself. I'm hoping to pick some up along the way. That's the reason why this section of the canal is wider, because there used to be a mill pond here. That female duck over there has been going a bit manic for the last 2 minutes. I don't know what she's doing. Washing herself? Coming up now to the village of Halton. That's what those houses are. Some guys running there. I'm wondering if they're from the Air Force base at Halton, trying to keep fit. Well, it's very nice walking along here in one way. They've done a great job of restoring it, and it really is idyllic. But it's all been a bit too easy so far. So I'm hoping that the going gets a bit rougher further on, which I think it does, because I like to get off the beaten track. Nice old original bridge across the canal. If you go to the left, you see Halton the village. And if you go to the right down there, you get to the Air Force base. But unfortunately, I don't have time to do those things now. Got to keep on with the canal. Here, the canal takes a very sharp bend to the right. And the reason it does that is because it's following the contours of the land. They planned the canal deliberately that way so that they wouldn't have to build locks. I just noticed something here beside the canal, which I really love. There's a footpath that goes down to on the right-hand side of that field there. And some farmer at the end of it has been very entrepreneurial. So this weekend, and today is a Saturday, there's a pop-up cafe and farm shop with tea, coffee, hot chocolate and homemade cakes. And I'd love to go there, but again, I just haven't got time. And on this sign, you can see that curve that I was talking about going around there, following the contours of the land. Otherwise, they could have just gone straight through if they didn't mind having locks. Over there is some of the accommodation from the Air Force base. Not sure if I'm supposed to film that. You can see this part is more overgrown now. It hasn't been as restored as the section at Wendover. I haven't walked most of this canal before, but a few years ago I did try to actually canoe this part of it. And it wasn't possible because it was just too overgrown. Somebody's tumbled down old farm. I was mistaken before when I said that by that bridge one way went to Halton. This is Halton here. But again, I haven't got time to see it, I'm afraid. Must be the village church. And I've been seeing these lovely metal signs all along the Wendover Arm. A nice picture of a kingfisher. So here we cross to the other side. So here there isn't a proper gravelled path, it's a bit more muddy, which means, more lovely snowdrops, which means that we are getting off the beaten track, that phrase again. You can hear my boots squelching as I walk through all this mud. I'll walk over here, but I better be pretty careful not to slip to the left. What you can see over there is the runway from the Air Force base. Those buildings are hangars, and there's a windsock just over there. If you've seen my last video but one, then you know that I saw a deer, but I wasn't quick enough to get it on film. So I'm keeping my eyes open for deer today. And this is quite good deer country here because they like to live in forests but graze in fields. So whenever you get a forest and a field close by, you might see a deer. Yes, you got to watch your step here. I could be arrested and prosecuted. And it would probably be richly deserved. bearing in mind all the trespassing I've done. Going under bridge number 8. The views are quite nice along here. I hadn't expected that. I don't know if the GoPro does them justice. Aha, he said triumphantly. So I am capable of spotting deer. There is one over there, a long, long way away. Again, I'll zoom in. A children's adventure playground over there, which my children played at back in the day. And here there seem to be loading bays on both sides of the canal. I'll have to look up what they were for. They go on for quite a long way, a good couple of 100 meters. And do you think that was a wharf or a loading bay or something? Well, this sign over here tells you there's a stately home over there behind those trees, or there was before it was burnt down. And this was the place where they loaded and unloaded the goods for it. But the sign also says that up here is Cobbler's Pit. It says, before you is a mystery. Well, it doesn't seem to say what they were pits for. Stone? Coal? I don't know, maybe that's what the mystery is. I'm quite tempted to just make a little diversion and go and have a look. It also says that you can see the great spotted woodpecker here. Well, it would be great if I spotted one. So let's just go and see if we can find these pits and have a quick look. I mustn't keep doing diversions though. I don't know, are these the pits here? Can't tell. Anyway, if I can find out what they were pits for, I'll put it on the screen. But I better get back to the canal. It's coming up to 12 o'clock and I've got a long way to go. And what do you know? The sun has come out. It wasn't supposed to today, but it has. So we have rays of sunshine casting a dappled light over the canal, as a novelist might say. Just wondering what that hole is. Don't know. This is bridge number 7. So we came from Wendover, so we've walked 4.8 kilometers. It's 6.2 kilometers to the destination, so we're nearly halfway. Time to think about stopping for lunch soon. And if you want to help the Wendover Canal Trust, who are the people who are restoring this canal, then you can spend £7.50 buying their 2026 calendar. Now that the sun's come out, everything's cheered up and the views are beautiful. When I'm not pointing the camera at myself, that is. This is the village of Aston Clinton coming up. I just double checked that on Google Maps to be sure. I noticed on Google Maps it says that the Wendover Arm, this canal, is disused. Well, it's not disused because I'm walking along it. What fun to have a canal in your back garden. All these people have built their own wharves. Apparently somebody's been along here with a scythe and cut all these reeds back. And over there, it's like a shed display. Who do you think's got the nicest shed? All these houses are lower than the water level. They're protected by a bank between them and the water. They better hope that that bank never breaks. If you live here, you have a very nice view over the hills there. A very good place to sit and look at the view. I'm guessing this is bridge number 6. It is. And I suppose bridge number 1 will be at our final destination. Looks like we're walking on the left-hand side of the canal again now. So the horse that originally pulled the barge would have had to cross the road at that point. This is Buckland Wharf, so there used to be a proper wharf here. I can't see any trace of it now, except for those historic houses over there. I think they were built for the wharf. Buckland is a nearby village which has now been pretty much swallowed up by Aston Clinton. About to go under a motorway soon, you can hear the noise. And I think here they diverted the canal. I think that's the way that it used to go. And when they built the motorway, they had to reroute it around here. I don't know what this plant is, but it looks like cotton. It makes me want to burst into song and sing a few numbers from Showboat. Going into the motorway, this is bridge 5A. I noticed that the water is not flowing here, which seems rather strange. It was flowing earlier on, but not here. So where does it all flow to? Next bridge coming up. No prizes for guessing what number bridge it's going to be. Sure enough, bridge number 5. Canal's really deep here. The canal's starting to look pretty choked up with weeds again up there. Well, somebody's made some nice steps there, and I can hear water gurgling, so is this where the water just stops flowing? And what made that hole? What it is to have an inquiring mind. I don't think there are any more towns or villages until we get to the end of this canal now, which is good and bad. It's good because it means we're out in the countryside, but it's bad because it means I've probably missed my last opportunity to get some lunch. And over that way, if you look right into the distance, you can see some reservoirs. And those reservoirs were made to store canal water, because when the canal lost water downstream because of locks, they had to get more water from somewhere. So they stored it in those canals. Actually, they still use it for that. This part looks like another wharf. I was going to make a joke there, something about Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, but I'll spare you that. Another wharf, apparently. But no puns this time, I promise. Speaking of the wharves, apparently the canal was not used very much for trade, but it was used to bring coal to Wendover, because they didn't have very much coal. What they did have was manure. So they used to use the canal to export manure. No, I haven't got myself a drone. I'm on a bridge. So that part is watered because it's been restored. And this part is not watered because it hasn't. You can see the clay down there. The canal beds, when the canals were first built, they were all lined with clay to stop all the water from draining away. That might be some of the original clay. So all of this part remains to be done. And on this bridge is a sign telling you what the Wendover Canal Trust have done. On this section we've laid over 22,000 blocks of concrete, I think that means, and they've spent over 25,000 hours restoring the canal. And what a good job they're doing. Keep it up, guys. And if you donate to the Wendover Canal Trust, then you get your name on a plaque here. So you scan that, donate some money, and then you get a plaque. So from now on, there might not be much water to be seen. If I was really going to walk the canal, then I would walk on the actual canal bed down there. I think this might be where there was an old pumping station, which has been excavated. Let's go and see if there's anything to see on the other side. Oh, slid down the bank there. And boots are so slippery because of all the clay that they've attracted. And I'll do my usual thing of seeing where the bricks are from. H-O-M? Is that what that is? I'll have to look it up later. Well, I was going to climb back up the bank there, but it was actually quite hard to climb up. So I am going to walk in the canal bed a bit, because I have to. Until I can see a place where I can climb back up. Actually, it's more fun doing it this way anyway. I think I can walk up here. Yep, no problem. And they very kindly provided some benches and some bird boxes. And again, the steps have got people's names on. I suppose they're people who contributed to the restoration fund. Quite a lot of them. We're doing quite well. We're about 2/3 of the way done. That reservoir is actually pretty big, and there are 3 or 4 of them. You have to store a lot of water for canals. Now I'm really feeling hungry, and I think from memory at the end of this canal there's a cafe called the Blueberry Cafe or the Blackberry Cafe or something like that. I think I went there years ago, so here's hoping it's still there. The canal just seems to disappear at this point. You can see it over there the way I've come, but the way I'm going I can't see it at all. What should be the canal is at ground level. I really wish I hadn't mentioned Showboat before, because now I can't get that song Old Man River out of my head. This seems to be the part of the canal that they're working on at the moment. So here you can't see any trace of it, but it must have gone that way. Maybe that's what it was all like before they started restoring it. You would definitely never know that there'd been a canal here. And those concrete blocks, are they the ones that they've laid 25,000 of? I've got to go off the canal here and onto the road. Old Man River. Oh no, I'm doing it again. This is the very small hamlet of Tringford. It has a pumping station, which is nice to see, because the pumping station was originally built for the canal. Nice to see it's still going. I'd like to go down there and film it, but you're not really supposed to. I'm going to see if I can film it from the other side of the canal. That's why the road goes up there, to get across the canal. Couple of very doleful looking horses in the field over there. That's looking back towards Wendover, and this is the way we're going. They've put a fence all along here for some reason, and there's a house with, is that an owl box? 2 different levels of water. This part looks a bit more navigable, so I wonder if boats can come this far. And over there is the pumping station, which I think used to be much bigger, judging from photographs that I've seen. Now, I don't know much about the technicalities of canals, and I can't remember whether this pumping station was to pump water from the reservoirs to the canal or vice versa, but I'm sure they knew what they were doing. And over there through the trees you can see our first boat. It's amazing that pumping station is still going after all these years. This section's quite narrow. I've got to watch what I'm doing. Actually, now that I'm closer, I can see that this boat isn't exactly the SS Titanic or anything, but it is still nonetheless a functional boat. And that's a good sign for the future of the canal. The sun's gone in and the wind's starting to blow, so I've had to wrap up again. Gloves and scarf. They've been doing quite a lot of reed cutting here as well, just enough to be able to get that little boat through. And I'm wondering if the reason why that boat has got through is so that the Wendover Canal Trust can show their backers that they are able to restore the canal to the point where boats can get through. The good news is that I was talking to a lady back at the bridge who assured me that there is food at the end of here. That factory over there is also something to do with the canal. I'll tell you what when we get a bit closer. I can hear the machinery of that factory. It's good that they're working on a Saturday. These silos, or whatever they are obviously quite new. But these buildings here are much older. A canal narrowboat. I wasn't expecting to see any of those because you can't go very far in them. I don't want to film too much in their faces, those people, but they've rented that narrowboat. You can rent them from near here apparently and go up and down the canal. It's very nice. So as I was saying, these buildings obviously date back quite some way, and I think that's a wharf over there. And this was one of the very few businesses that was actually set up to use the canal, and it was a flour mill. I think it replaced an earlier windmill. And the thing I like about it is that it's still a flour mill. It looks like people are working away in there, milling grain or milling flour, whatever you call it. I love to think that that tradition still continues after all these years. Haygate's flour. You see their lorries all over the place. Bridge number 2. So we can't be far from our destination now. This barrier is made out of old railway tracks. So can I continue? Not on this side. On this side I can. The water is more cloudy here because it was stirred up by that boat that just went past. Two ducks, but more interestingly, a heron. I like it when animals keep still long enough for me to film them. I suppose they must know I'm making a video. The sun is quite low in the sky now. I was going to do this walking from north to south, but then I realized that the sun would be in my eyes the whole way. So very artfully and strategically, I decided to walk it south to north. That must be some sort of runoff where excess water from the canal goes into the reservoir. Our second canal boat, and this one looks as though it might be moored here permanently. I can tell by the bricks on that building that it's about as old as the canal, so I'm sure it was built, I don't know, a lockkeeper's cottage or something. And I think we're coming towards the end now. Yes, I can see now that it's a toll house. The sign in front of the house says so. And this, I think, is where the Wendover Canal, which you just walked along, meets the Grand Union Canal, the main one between London and Birmingham. So we're at the end of our journey. And there's a sign to say that this arm of the Grand Union Canal, that is the Wendover Arm, which you just walked, is navigable for 1.5 miles, being restored in stages by the Wendover Arm Trust. And you could take their leaflets from there if there were any left. So now it's going to be a lot busier on the canal. Lots of people live on canal boats and go up and down, or else some of them are static. Quite a lot of them colonize a bit of the canal bank over there, like these people have done. There's a real artistic style to the way that canal boats are painted. That one over there is painted in a very traditional way. Very attractive. I just want to see what that building is over there. It's obviously an original building. That means I'll have to walk across the lock gates. That's where you would have paid your dues to use the canal. I'm hoping that we'll be able to see a boat going through one of the locks. There's not much water escaping. They're doing a good job of keeping it all watertight. So what's all this about? Two quite battered looking boats. Lots of useless rubbish. Is that what they've cleared up off the canal? So is that a rubbish collecting boat? Bates Boatyard. I wonder if it's still that. It looks like it is. He's got his own website, batesboatyard.co.uk. I bet he'd be glad of the publicity from me. It looks like this is a dry dock. Bates Boatyard. Aylesbury Arm. That's another arm a bit further up from the Wendover Arm. Private, okay, well I won't go beyond that. Not much to see anyway. But I like the fact that he's using the original building. And we'll go back across the other lock gate. I don't like to go back the same way. So now it's time to think strategically again. I've walked the whole of the Wendover Canal arm, but I'm 7 miles from the car and I have to get back somehow, and I wouldn't mind eating something as well. So I'm going to have to either go up the canal or down the canal. I think I'll go up the canal because I think there's a cafe up there. Clearly something to do with the canal as well, maybe spillover from the reservoirs. Another set of locks complete with Lockkeeper's Cottage, 1909. All kinds of canal-y stuff down here. It looks as though the whole canal is blocked up ahead there. There's the Lockkeeper's Cottage, Lock Cottage, but it looks like the lock really has been locked. You're not supposed to go on there, but it looks like those old lock gates there have finally had their day. And are those new ones that they're going to install over there? And there's some kind of canal-based crane that's going to be doing the heavy lifting. I never really thought about how you fix lock gates when they break. That's one of the reservoirs, and the reason they have the reservoirs here is because this is the highest point that this canal goes to. It has to get across the Chiltern Hills, and a canal can't go higher than its water source. So you have to get a lot of water in the good times in the winter and store it in reservoirs at the canal's highest point. Field full of geese honking away, can you hear them? Well, that's the nice thing about doing a canal walk, that you're virtually guaranteed to see a lot of bird life. This lock gate has been repaired over there, but I think it's going to need a bit of attention down here too. It looks in a very bad way. You can see two of the reservoirs from here with water at completely different levels from each other, and different again from the water level of the canal. Somebody spending the day fishing. Those houses over there are the village of Marsworth, and I think that's where I'm going to stop and hopefully get some food. Water's Edge, do you think that sounds like a cafe? I'll check in a minute. I want to check something else first. So, there's a sign over there saying the Angler's Retreat, which must be a pub, food and drink available all day. That's all well and good. But I want to check and see if there's another actual canal side pub. This one here, yes, the White Lion. I want to know if that one is still going. It used to be an abandoned wreck for a long time, but no, it looks as though it's being done up now. That's a pity. I would have preferred to see a wreck. Well, then it looks as though it's going to be the pub for a bite to eat. The Angler's Retreat. This is the very small settlement of Startop's End, a canal village. The reason I call it a canal village is I think it was built at the same time as the canal, judging by the bricks. So perhaps it was canal workers that it was built for. If you ever wanted to buy a telegraph pole, this one's for sale. Right, here's the Angler's Retreat. Let's go and see what they've got to offer in the way of food and drink. Well, they've just stopped serving food, so that's no good. I thought they said they served it all day. And I've just missed the bus as well. So I need to come up with some kind of a plan. But first I'm going to try that other cafe for food. At this rate, I'll be getting a taxi back to the car, which I don't like to do. What do you think I should have? The waitress asked me why I was filming, and I said I'm making a video about the canal, and I was joking to her that I should order something from the menu that's canal themed. But the closest I could get was the tuna melt. Tuna, water, canal. But I don't really like tuna, so I went for the ham and cheese panini. Well, this looks like it'll do the job. I don't think I'm going to need any dinner tonight. It's really nice. This is ham with 2 kinds of cheese, I think. But I do have a bit of a problem because there are no taxis. I'm 7 miles from the car and I don't feel like walking all the way back. So I've got to come up with some kind of a plan. Well, that was a perfectly fine ham and cheese panini. And I think that's the old lockkeeper's cottage that the cafe is in. So I was having a lot of trouble finding a taxi. All the places that I rang said they had nothing for hours. So I was thinking I might have a 7-mile walk back to the car, but luckily in the end I found a taxi that can come along more or less now. So as long as they turn up, I'm fine. The taxi has arrived. We are saved. And 20 minutes later, I was back in Wendover. Just walking back to the car now. That was a really fun day. It had all of the things I hoped it would have. It had scenery, it had history, and it had food. So what more could you want? So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one. Bye for now.